long story short with this game, going fast in this game is all about providing momentum via a dash and then conserving it with a jump. And you'll see that right away that the runners are doing. Techniques known as hyper dashing and jump dashing or dash canceling, as a lot of people call it. They can use those techniques to go very, very fast. You'll also see another bit of tech, like what Hornlitz just did in that one screen. Yeah, there it is again. He dashed alongside a wall vertically, and then went ahead and jumped off the wall, and that gives you an extra vertical boost, as well as a horizontal boost.
These runners are neck and neck, about a screen apart here. OddBod moving very cleanly through this section.
Yeah, and you notice on that second to last screen, or third to last screen rather, if you looked at either runner actually, they seem to jump off of a spike. They did not actually jump off of the spike. There's a little bit of wall that you can jump off there in order to get to the other side of that spike pit. You'll see that a couple times during the run. They'll appear to just jump off a spike, but they're actually just jumping off the wall behind the spike, and it's yeah, you cannot jump off spikes in this game.
So we're moving into Chapter 2. So yeah, the gimmick with the dream blocks, they're currently not on, but they will be very shortly. We'll see if we get this glitch here. Hornlitz gets it, as does OddBod. So you skip the cutscene, and then your Y-axis is put into the dream block, allowing you to save a little bit of time there.
That's the only glitch we're going to see in this run, if I'm correct. And it saves about a second, maybe? Somewhere between a half a second and a second.
So both runners are now in the battle line chase sequence, making a great work through these dream blocks on both screens. So battle line basically would be chasing Madeline with the same route that she does. It's a 3-second delay, but for the most part, the runners are going to avoid them at all costs and just really blaze through this.
Wow, the sync going on here.
I know, this is crazy.
Yeah, this is definitely honestly hyped up, as I mentioned before, to be one of the premier matches of this round robin stage of the tournament. And it's showing here that like runners are perfectly synced exiting the battle line scene.
Yeah, oh my God, this is really intense. It looks like I'm watching one race right now.
That is fantastic sync. Wow. See who does the awake section the fastest here.
Yeah, this section, there's not a lot. There's no hazards or anything. There's a few springs here or there, but for the most part, it's just taking the opportunity to use the movement to get to the last screen as fast as possible, and OddBod pulls ahead by just a few seconds.
Yep, just a very slim lead. Worth noting, by the way, that we're not sure. Okay, so it looks like Hornlitz has a 3:52 in-game time. Looks like their in-game times are going to be pretty similar as far as system capabilities go. Looks like Hornlitz is behind by about 3 seconds going into Resort, which is at this point it's a pretty insignificant deficit, or pretty insignificant lead for OddBod.
Yeah, a single death can quickly force a lead change here. Really noted.
Yeah, this is a tough room to do properly. He's just not getting the dash back on the extended hyper dash. Yeah, so you notice that OddBod here, so what he's doing there is an extended hyper dash. You have a period of time between 10 and 15 frames after your dash to actually jump. And when you jump, you actually get your dash back if you do it within that frame period. You see the runners doing that quite a bit.
OddBod having a little bit of trouble in that room. Cycles do play a factor in this chapter. Going into a room and then dying in a room, the cycle is a little different. And it's enough to actually where you would want to change your route, depending. So now Hornlitz is moving a little bit ahead, about to grab another key here. OddBod hot on his tail.
Yeah, and you mentioned Death's creating a lead change, and that's very evident in this situation right here with OddBod having a lot of trouble with that first room inside the resort.
So Hornlitz is now in the huge mess section. We've got this maze of clutter within the hotel, and just a lot of precise movements. It's really easy to grab onto things on accident or kind of like wall jump off of something. He handles it perfectly and is going through the cleanup phase. OddBod as well, hitting huge mess. Let's see if he can get through this very cleanly.
Yeah, the top runners are very, very smooth through this room, generally. It can be very difficult to navigate your way through the tiny nooks and crannies of that room. You'll notice, by the way, Hornlitz just did another one of those spike jumps I mentioned earlier. They're not actually spike jumps, they're just jumping off the wall. And the way hitboxes work with the spikes is if you're moving away from the spikes, they essentially don't have a hitbox, and you cannot actually touch them and you won't die to them. So as long as you're moving away from the spikes and still jumping off the wall, you get that jump. It's pretty useful in that room.
And now OddBod finishing the first section of the cleanup here as Hornlitz moves halfway through the second one.
Yeah, you'll see OddBod is making up time very quickly on Hornlitz through this huge mess section. Only a couple rooms apart now.
And now Hornlitz setting up. Also with huge mess, for this section, you can kind of choose whichever route you want to go through. Each area is accessible, but to optimize, we choose the routes where once we exit, we're very close to Oshiro, so we can continue on with the next segment.
Yeah, this part is routed very, very specifically in order to have Mr. Oshiro be close to that exit for each section as well.
And Hornlitz finishing up the last section. OddBod right on his tail again, just looks like 2 screens away.
Ooh, nice cycle skip there from OddBod. So the huge mess section is complete, and they can now advance to the elevator shafts.
See if Hornlitz gets a hyper here. It looks like he does. Getting a little bit of speed into this room with the key locks. OddBod getting it as well.
Yeah, really clean Ultra Dash strat into that room there from OddBod.
And again, we're at that point where a death from Hornlitz could lead to a lead change. And coming up with one of the more difficult rooms in Chapter 3, where we do the key skip. Let's see if we can get it here. And he does. OddBod right on his tail. Also first try, nice.
That's always one of the most impressive looking parts of Resort, for sure.
It's definitely a confidence booster if you can get that. Like, I know I've seen runners just like get really like hyped when they get those down.
Yeah, for sure.
Now Hornlitz is on the Oshiro boss fight. Oshiro basically will hone in on Madeline, and then when a lightning bolt comes by, he'll do a straight dash across the screen. This section can be very rough for new runners, as some of the rooms are very lengthy, and a death late in the room loses a lot of time.
OddBod stylishly using Oshiro there. Get that head bob. You can land on Oshiro, as well as well, you can't touch any part of him that isn't the very top of his head. But if you do touch the top of his head, you can bounce off of him, and OddBod utilized that very well there. This last room here is the longest room in Resort. Period. Death here at the end of this room can be very costly. But both runners handling it very well, and the sync is pretty much back. OddBod made back a lot of time on Hornlitz through the rest of that resort.
Yeah, it looks like they're about a second off as they move into Golden Bridge. So we got a lot of wind. There's some clouds that act like trampolines, and then we have these green bubbles that essentially give you an extra dash, which we utilize. Oh, OddBod going for some tech there and a mishap. And again, now we are... Actually, I think now OddBod is a little bit ahead now.
Yeah, Hornlitz trying for that extended hyper dash up to skip the cloud, which only saves a negligible amount of time.
So OddBod getting his encounter with the wind and the green blocks here. You guys see a lot of nice movement from both runners in this section. For being midway through the game, this chapter is actually very quick if done by the high-level runners. I believe it's anywhere from high 2, low 3 minutes. Is that correct?
Just about there, yeah. Yeah, Ridge is full of little tiny strats that save time, that are difficult, but save only a little bit of time. Nice screen transition, wall bouncing there from OddBod.
He's playing through getting.
You'll see this. First. You'll see the same thing probably from Hornlitz here. Yep, there we go. Very nicely done.
Oh no, OddBod getting the auto scroller skip here, while Hornlitz is just being short on the dash crystal. He makes it through.
Interested to see what style of auto scroller skip Hornlitz goes for here. And he'll go for the classic one, the older one, the not quite as fast but very safe one, where you just extended hyperdash. You can, I believe, OddBod attempted and succeeded at getting a hyperdash along with a bunny hop. Ooh, very nice from OddBod there. That's actually pretty difficult to do. That saves about a second. You can bunny hop on that block as it's moving up and skip that second block. Very nicely done.
And Hornlitz making his way up to that same section. Let's see what he goes for here.
Ooh, that's a pretty costly death there from OddBod.
Yeah, Hornlitz is catching up, about to enter the same screen that OddBod is leaving.
Swag shot there from OddBod. Ooh, nice.
And now OddBod in the home stretch for Chapter 4. We have high gusts that just stop Madeline in her tracks. Also, Hornlitz missing the dash out of the green bubble there.
Yeah, an important thing to note about wind in this game, or in this chapter, this is the only chapter that even has wind, except for Chapter 7, is that when you dash, you'll notice OddBod hyper dashing on tops of these platforms here. When you hyperdash or dash at all, the wind actually doesn't affect you. So the wind basically ignores the dash, and players use that to their advantage.
OddBod finishing up very strong here. A very low 3 minute, nicely done. As Hornlitz is making his way.
Very respectable.
Just a few screens behind as OddBod begins to move into Mirror Temple.
Mirror Temple's my favorite chapter, personally. Lots of really neat tech. See if OddBod, I believe OddBod does go for the this cycle skip on the saws pretty early on. There's a skip you can do. You can skip this. You can skip a red bubble right here. You can go left and get a red bubble, or you can just do this. There we go. And this cycle skip right here, that's actually really difficult to do. That was nicely done. It's pretty tight to fall between those.
So he gets to the first key. Hornlitz now in Mirror Temple, making his way through.
Nice skip there from OddBod.
Is opting to not go for that dash block skip.
Let's see a DBS from OddBod. No, okay, that's understandable. Oh, he's going for it. Oh, this is very difficult to do, and he's gonna opt to not do it. That's respectable. Yeah, that's a really frame accurate jump. In addition to a 3-frame window to get a corner boost to make it to that bubble without having the first bubble.
Oh, and Hornlitz did get that boost in that room as he heads into... See if he's going to go for double. Nope, opts to not do it.
It's generally a smart decision to not go for it. But it is ultra swag if you can get it. Saves about a second and a half or so. if you can get it first try. Assuming you actually that there's a setup you can do in that room to do it too that involves a self-destruct into pretty close to the right pixel you jump from.
So we have OddBod getting to the Seeker intro section here. As Hornlitz is into that, it introduces one of the new gimmicks that we have with these little dudes. That wait, oh, hold on.
Nice. Very nice
OddBod,
there from OddBod.
Yeah, he just cut me off. I'm sorry. So we have these Seekers, and they home in on Madeline, and will it's just like Oshiro and all those other guys. A hit will cause a death. You can bounce on their head, and you can actually use them to activate some of these key locks, as you see there on OddBod's screen.
So the last room of this section of the unraveling section, as it's probably called, right here. This screen right here can make or break your temple. And he pulls that off very nicely. Ooh, okay. All right, he's fine. All right. Yeah, missing that last wall bounce there that he attempted can be very, very costly. But luckily, the Seeker wasn't in quite the position that it could have been to nab him, but he got it fine.
And then OddBod nailing Search Skip as Hornlitz is going through the last room of the Seeker section.
That skip casually saves about 2 minutes, by the way. Skips the entire right half and the bottom 2 keys of that section. It's pretty much the skip to learn if you're looking to learn the speedrun.
Now Hornlitz is getting set up for that too, as OddBod enters the rescue section of Chapter 5 with our boy Theo here.
So Theo in this crystal, you cannot dash with Theo, so you'll notice that OddBod will actually hyper dash or jump dash into Theo and catch him as he's in the air, and you preserve your momentum that way, and you can build momentum and just preserve it. So this part can be very technical. Of course, these runners are pros, so they will have no problems with the Theo section, I'm sure. Yeah, that boost right there is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, OddBod is flying through as Hornlitz begins the rescue section as well.
So this eyeball here in this room that OddBod's entering, he will shoot waves at you, basically, or air waves, or whatever they are. I don't even know what they are. If you basically, you'll notice that he seemed to be dashing through them. He actually wasn't. So the waves push you back, but he's dashing immediately, so that the momentum backwards is counteracted by an immediate change in momentum forwards with the dash. And that's how he's able to move through that room so quickly. We'll see if OddBod goes for Lake Skip. I know he's kind of on the fence about Lake Skip sometimes, but we'll see if he goes for it.
And now Hornlitz is in the last room of rescue as well. Oh, missed the switch with Theo. Good recovery.
He is going for it. And easy every time, Lake Skip. It's a pretty precise trick that saves about 4 seconds, but is pretty... It can be risky to attempt.
So now both runners are going to be going into reflection. We have some cool things, some cool gadgets like this feather here, which kind of sends you on a high-speed chase through these beautiful pink spikes all throughout this area of Celeste Mountain. They're omnidirectional, I believe that is the correct term. So yes. Analog is used to finely tune the direction that you're going. And we also have the good old Kevin blocks as well, and those are, you hit them on a direction and they'll fly in the direction that you hit, away from where you hit them, excuse me. And you can get a lot of momentum off them, as you will see from both runners through this chapter.
So Hornlitz not opting to do Lake Skip, opting to use the Kevin block instead. OddBod having a very clean Chapter 6 so far.
So in the section that OddBod is in, there are forked paths that you can choose to go through. Generally, the top path is favored, except for one room where we will take the bottom path. He's making great work here.
I always like to say, I'd rather not say. I'd rather not say because of a potential commentator's curse, and so you can't blame me.
I don't know, Tej. We haven't had a commentary curse happen yet.
I mean, I know some people in the commentator role this tournament very well.
Right, so OddBod moving into the next session here, where you're basically trying to find Battlein. So Hornlitz is making his way through the previous section. It's still a very close race. Any mishaps here in like a lead change can definitely happen.
Very nice intended shortcut there. The last little bit of that shortcut is definitely the hardest to fit through. The first two have setups, the last one actually does not, so you have to kind of fit your way through it.
OddBod going for the Battlein boost here. Let's see if he can get this here.
Yeah, watch this here if you haven't seen this. This is the most speed we build up in the entire run.
Very nice, he got it.
So what that is actually... I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say what that is with the Kevin block there is it's a hyper dash into a bunny hop to gain enough speed to make it all the way through there with just a single bunny hop. Greet Battlein very swiftly.
So the Battlein section, each room, your goal is to run into her, which she will run away and open up another path. She'll fire these lasers at you and these balls that will also kind of home in on Battlein. And then Hornlitz going through the shortcut section. Also mentioned the shortcut is a high risk, high reward because as you, okay, there's the commentator curse. I'm sorry, because they say if you die, you get sent very far back. Some runners opt. There is a checkpoint that you can go to, and some do that as a safety net, so to speak. But again, you still save a lot of time if you can get through it in one shot.
Just like to note that was him, not me. Who gave
I take full blame for that.
Yeah, that was not me.
Now Hornlitz getting set up for the Battlein boost here.
Ooh, so you'll notice that. So that can happen. You can die during a cutscene, and on the Switch version of the game, which is not the current patch that PC plays on, that actually crashes the game. So Hornlitz can be thankful that he's playing on the current patch.
Yes, and that will also happen on the PS4 version. I had it happen twice in some practice runs. And so now OddBod is in the second half of the Battlein chase / fight, where these blocks will start moving around and Battlein is a little more aggressive. But he's also near the end here. We got a huge screen here, so a death here would allow Hornlitz to catch up. Yep, OddBod nails it.
One last screen here for OddBod. Very long screen.
Oh no. Just dashed a little too early and didn't catch the feather. But good recovery.
Okay, yep, nicely done. That death hurt me more than I care to admit. Because OddBod was actually on a very, very good Chapter 6 pace. So now I can say what I wanted to say before. Any Deathless Chapter 6 is a very good Chapter 6. It's one of those chapters where if you don't die, it's kind of difficult to lose time. But a 603 is extremely good. That would have been easily far and away a sub 6 had that death not happened.
Oh, definitely. And now Hornlitz going into the second phase of the battle and fight as OddBod heads into the summit. So for this chapter, we're going to see the gimmicks from all previous chapters come together in nice little bite-sized sections, which actually pays homage to the Pico 8 version of the game. They kind of have the same kind of setup here. So there's a lot of tech, especially now that Madeline has 2 dashes, so it's definitely utilized, and the levels are designed to complement that. So it's very tough, and it's also the longest chapter in the game. So see how OddBod handles it.
Yep, Summit is by far the longest chapter in the game. Summit should take somewhere between, I would say somewhere around 9 minutes for OddBod. Whereas the next closest chapter, I think, is Temple? No, Resort, at about 5 minutes.
So Hornlitz is finishing up chapter 6 as OddBod moves into the 500 section, which is a recap of City, utilizing all of the gimmicks from the first stage.
That was a very good corner boost there from OddBod. I'm sorry, chapter 6 is the next longest chapter. My bad on that one.
All right, now Hornlitz is beginning his summit ascent here as OddBod moves into the 1000 one, which is chapter 2 in the Dream Blocks. One thing that we didn't mention is you can jump out of Dream Blocks, but you can also hyper out of them, which I believe OddBod is going to take advantage of.
Yeah, hyper dashing out of Dream Blocks can be pretty tight. Yep, there's one.
Well, OddBod is aggressively just tackling this section head on.
Yeah, and a lot of these rooms actually hyper dashing, like especially this one, hyper dashing out of Dream Blocks. Yeah, like that, exactly like that. I'm sorry, that was on me. Yeah, hyper dashing and missing actually can result in pretty immediate death and insurmountable death, or insurmountable or unrecoverable situation resulting in death.
Well, Hornlitz
Terminology is hard.
As OddBod enters the 1500 section, arguably the most difficult section in Summit, I believe. You have the Dust Bunnies again, and just some really tight movement and dashes that you have to do. Particularly this room here, with these Dust Bunnies circling that key there. He handles it perfectly as he moves into one of the first of 2 long sections of 1500.
Very cleanly done room there. Very nice. This room's pretty cool to watch right here.
Oh, he nails that.
3 different ultra dashers in that room. We never really explained what ultra dashing is. Ultra dashing, so there's a specific property of downward diagonal dashes that actually builds your speed even more than a hyper dash does. So if you extended hyper dash, or in this case you have 2 dashes, so you actually don't need to extend it. You can actually dash down diagonally out of a dash, or out of a hyper dash, and that actually it compounds your speed. So you get a very fast boost as a result.
So Hornlitz is now moving through the 1000 section, getting to that last screen as OddBod moves on in 2000. Gonna get to the auto scroller.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good recovery.
So here's a nice little auto scroller skip. We say screw that block, and we're not using it. So you extend the hyper dash, just barely makes it to that block, and then you can wall bounce on a little piece of wall that juts out. Very conveniently placed.
Oh, hitting the reach.
Oh, just didn't get his dash back there.
Then we're going to see some wall bounces in this room here. Oh. Okay,
Good recovery there from Hornlitz, by the way. He lost his dash, but was able to neutral jump his way around and actually avoid death there. Good instincts.
So OddBod taking a few deaths here in this second to last screen of 2000 as Hornlitz is finishing up.
Apparently there's ground there. I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
It saved them there. Today I learned. You learn something new every day with this game, it seems.
I'm curious to see if he knew that there was.
Maybe he didn't.
He did kind of stop. Like he's like, "Oh, I died," and then it was like, "Oh, wait." So OddBod
Very
going
nice
to
auto dashing
2500.
there.
We're gonna see another spike jump here to get the skip. Nicely done.
So yet another instance there where it looks like he's jumping off a spike, but he's actually not. He's just using the wall. Fun fact, actually, that skip is made a lot easier, or any actual well, spike jump for lack of a better term. Any jump like that is made a lot easier when holding another jump button. So if you have two buttons on your controller or keyboard down to jump, even when you hold one of them and jump with the other one, it makes it a lot simpler.
Well, now I've learned something that I'm probably going to apply in my own runs.
Nice.
So OddBod getting to the nice wall bounce. Okay.
Oh, that's sick. That was sick. The swag from OddBod. That's actually time saving as well. Barely over what well, I guess what I do, but which is a diagonal dash to there, but yeah, the wall bounce is super swag.
Now Hornlitz getting to the final section of 2000 and heading into the Mirror Temple as OddBod hits 3000 and is ready to ascend the mountain and get to that top. So we have this downdraft section where the gusts are going to basically prevent Madeline from jumping as high. Also, if she's grabbing onto ledges and kind of sticks there, she starts sliding downwards. So it's very important to be nimble and not pause too long in particular places. But OddBod is making great work of this section as Hornlitz moves into trying to get that key skip.
Yep, and this is a mostly vertical section, 3,000 meters. This wall bounce, you'll see he's constantly wall bouncing all over the place. That comes in very, very handy. Like I said, wind actually doesn't affect your dash momentum at all, so you'll see him putting that to really good use there. This section is full of wall bounces, and now here's an updraft, so it's the opposite.
And then for this section, there's just a lot of horizontal areas and not a lot of places for you to land. So you have to be very wise on how your dashes are and where and when to dash.
Seems like everybody does something different for these lock switches coming up. So we'll see what kind of strats both OddBod and Hornlitz do here.
I just realized something. I don't even know if either of them went for door skip or not.
OddBod did.
Okay.
I admittedly wasn't watching Hornlitz. And he got it first try, of course. I'm sorry we didn't make a huge deal about that.
We're doing a retry there on flag 9. As Hornlitz begins his ascent up the summit here, the home stretch. Also, there's these checkpoints, as I mentioned, the number 9 checkpoint. Basically, if you hit them, if you die, that's where you respawn. There's a few instances where people will skip a few to try to save some time, but you run into that risk of dying and going back even further. So it's really a runner preference on how they want to attack that.
Oh, that just barely clipped there.
Now Hornlitz is heading into the updraft section as OddBod is on the 3rd flag.
skipping flag 2 is OddBod, which is only slightly faster, but significantly risky. There we go. The ascent to flag 1. And it looks like OddBod is going to come away with the victory in this race. GG to OddBod with a total time of 32:52 in-game time. Very, very respectable. GG. See Hornlitz sneaking his way through the spikes here. Very clean-looking section of 3000 here so far for Hornlitz.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's making it look so easy as he heads into the home stretch here.
Ooh, that was odd. I think he thought he didn't make it on top of the cloud, but he actually did. That's strange.
Taking a dip there as he tries flag 4 once again. Alright, so we have OddBod here with us. Congratulations on your victory, sir.
Thank you.
Hornlitz is in the home stretch here. OddBod, how'd you feel about the run today for this race?
It was fine, I guess. Before the tournament, I told myself that whenever I get a 32, I'll be fine with it. So, like, you know, I can't complain too much. It was definitely like the worst run I had so far in tournament, but it's still okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The beginning sucked a lot, like the chapter 3. That one was a bummer.
Oh yeah. And also, Hornlitz has wrapped up getting a 34-46. See if we can get him in here as well.
GG to both runners. And yeah, OddBod definitely, a 32 in a race setting is definitely nothing to sneeze at for sure. That was a very, very good race. You know, despite some kind of early mistakes, you held it together pretty well and returned with a very, very strong chapter 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, without the death in that second to last room, like that would have been a sub 6 far and away.
Yeah, I think like a 53 maybe? That sounds about right. 53, 54. That would have definitely been an ILPP.
Probably.
Alright, so we now have Hornlitz in the chat as well. How's it going? Congratulations. Is that a PB?
That was not a PB. No, I missed PB by, what was my time? Yeah, I missed PB by a little under 40 seconds.
Okay. So very impressive run. I saw that you did a lot of clutch saves, especially in Summit. I saw in 2000 how you got kind of hung up on the cliff and waited for the snowball to come by.
Yeah, that was... I was debating whether or not I should just retry, but I figured I'd try bouncing on the snowball, and I managed to pull it off.
It's always the worst feeling when you're just hanging there without a dash. Yep. Been there. Done that. It's almost never fun to wait for that snowball, but...
Yep.
Oh, and actually, OddBod, I did want to ask you, in the last screen of 2000, did you realize that there was a floor there underneath?
You know, that's funny because it actually happened the first time to me like 2 days ago.
I did not know there's a floor there.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, we didn't know.
It happened like some random no reset 2 days ago, so before that I didn't know it either, but this time I knew it. Gladly. That was weird for sure.